Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun.
One of my favourite ever episodes of No Budget Reviews was in the autumn of 2020, where I was privileged to drive a 1985 Austin Maestro 1.6 Vanden Plas automatic. This is another Maestro Vanden Plas. This is a manual. It's got MG alloy wheels on it. There were optional alloy wheels for Vanden Plas, but this one is a bit of a different type of car, really. It's been hand painted, be thinking Hammerite, and the paint job's not very good, to be honest. Also, we've got this Webasto type sunroof on top of it, and all that does is leak. So the interior is a little bit on the damp side. Fortunately, the driver's side is okay, but when Patrick going into his car goes out with me a little bit later, he's going to be sitting on a towel, which is fun. We'll have No Budget Reviews, viewers. It's all for good fun. Vanden Plas is actually the pronunciation that was used for this trim level in Austin Road publicity material at the time. Now, you can say it other ways. It really doesn't matter how you say it. It's really not that important. But I've always said Vanden Plas. That's the way publicity material used to say it. If you want to use another pronunciation, it's absolutely fine, but I will stick with Vanden Plas, just that's what I know. So if we open the boot, I think the struts have gone on this, so I'm going to have to hold it. We see a slightly hairy parcel shelf. The car was originally blue. That's why we've got sort of blue interior bits, but this actually has the optional leather interior. One of the great things about this car is just how big the boot is. If you compare this to like an Escort Mark III that they were pegged directly against, then the interior accommodation, the boot, is far bigger. Obviously, I have driven an Escort Mark III on the channel, and I prefer the Maestros. Now, this is actually quite a solid car. The paint obviously isn't great, but the structure of the car is pretty solid. And something very special inside here, which wasn't standard at this time. It has a leather interior. Now, I don't know if this has come from another car. It's possible it might have done, actually. But it is a bit nicer than the standard sort of box upholstery which would have been in this car. Because this is a pre 1986 car, it has the electric windows actually on the doors and not in the centre console. And it has a talking dash. Yeah, this sunroof needs to come out. It really does. The headlining's been taken out in preparation for it to be done. So yeah, it's going to be interesting when we go for a little drive later on. So we'll have a look at the dash and make sure that works. 5-speed manual. This is actually a Volkswagen gearbox in this car, Volkswagen end-on gearbox. That, I think, is the standard stereo that came with the car, back when this was made in '85. Headlight switch is just here. Yeah, and you've got some bongy binging going on there. Only done 66,000 miles. It's very interesting that the odometer is actually a standard one, but the rest of the instruments are digital. These dashboards are supposed to be notorious for cracking, but this one's absolutely fine. I think the later dashboards that came in about January, February '86, these days of cars I've seen are more prone to cracking than these earlier ones, despite the fact that they had a reputation for that. I don't know, it's really strange. These are sort of metro style stalks. The later dash cars, which have the dash from the Montego, they had different stalks on them. Heater controls are a little bit different. They're not all clustered around here. They are on that side and this side. Wiper switch there. Someone's put the fog lamp switch the wrong way around for some reason at some point. Hazard light switch there. There we go, that works. And a big sort of shelf to put all the odds and ends in. So yeah, the interior does need a bit of finishing off. Someone I think has changed it at some point. Yeah, I don't want to sit there. Patrick's going to enjoy himself sitting there. I will not. Seats are very comfortable, actually. It's better for me to probably show you in the back. Interesting cigarette lighter there. This car's actually got an automatic choke as well. Some of them have been converted to manual choke. This one's still got an automatic one. So if we look in the back, I think that door's open. There we go. This is the selling point of the Maestros back in the day, was the amount of space in the back. And my grandfather had 5 of these. He had all sorts, HLEs, Mayfairs, Vanden Plas, all of them. Yeah, apart from being a little damp because of this stupid sunroof, it's not too bad in here. There's a lot of room. There's a nice luxurious armrest as well. A leather armrest in a family car from the 80s. Isn't that fantastic? And the door caps and all sorts of things. Even got a tiny little ashtray in here. If I can get this to work, there we go. Very much like ones that you found in the Metro as well. It does look a bit weird with the little blue interior door handle and the leather upholstery. Got mat pockets in here. The space is very, very good for a car of this type and this size. Some people, like my grandfather, just keep buying these just because they were so unbelievably practical. So we've had a lot of Maestros on the channel, including now 2 Vanden Plas and an Advantage that Patrick also owns, HLS that Patrick owns, also Montegos and all kinds of things. Patrick's also got a Mayfair. We've also driven that Maestro Mayfair, Montego Mayfair, and we might at some point also have a go in his Montego Vanden Plas that's over there, but that's not on the road at the moment. We might be able to have a look at that maybe next year. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet before we play with this interesting dashboard. So here we are. This is the S series engine. It's a 1.6 litre unit, develops 85 horsepower. Earlier Vanden Plas, from about 83 to July 84, had the R series engine. That was a really, really poor design. In fact, it was so poor that they had to get rid of that within something like 18 months of beginning Maestro production and replace it with the S series, which was a vastly improved unit. I've driven loads of Maestros with this engine, and it's okay, but my preference with Maestros and Montegos is the 2 litre O series, but you could get in the MG models. That develops up 115 horsepower. Lots and lots of room though, lots of room in here. Very much a sort of DIY car if you wanted to work on it yourself. It's not particularly difficult. Not most exotic specification though, very much a bit like a Golf really in terms of the suspension and that kind of stuff, and also the end-on gearbox. There is the Volkswagen 5-speed manual down there. The previous Vanden Plas I drove had the automatic transmission, which was again a Volkswagen unit but a 3-speed auto. That was very slow, so I'm looking forward to perhaps a bit more performance in this manual model. Right, let's have a look at that dash then. Ooh, viewers. Yes. Here's the Digi-Dash. How exciting. Nicolette Mackenzie, who lent her voice to this system, has already toyed with my seatbelt on. So if we press this button, will this talk?
Time.
Yes.
Trip distance. Fuel used. Instantaneous fuel consumption. Average fuel consumption. Time.
I don't think it's possible to have a time that's 9.7. I don't know what's going on there, viewers, but Nicolette Mackenzie is alive and well. One thing you can do is to instantly change the speedo from miles per hour to kilometers an hour, which is exciting, isn't it? So I'm told by Patrick she's not working entirely but she is she's working well enough to be able to hear. Let's just hear that again.
Trip distance. Fuel used. Instantaneous fuel consumption. Average fuel consumption. Time.
Right, let's leave her on there and well, go for a little spin.
So the basic engine in a Maestro was 1.3 8 series engine, which generated either 64 horsepower in the HLE or 68 horsepower in all models. Then, as I mentioned, there was the R series engine. The R series actually was used in both the MG 1600 and also a lot of other Maestros between March 1983 and July of 1984. That developed 81 horsepower for standard models and 103 of the MG. The S series continued all the way up until I think 1992 or 1993 with 85 horsepower. One of the rarest Maestro variants is the MG 1600 of the S series, which also had 103 horsepower like the R series, but was only made from July to October 1984. After that, the MG became a 2-litre model with 115 horsepower and fuel injection. There was also the crazy MG Maestro Turbo that was made, I think, between 1988 and 1990. That developed more power than an Escort RS Turbo, developed 152 horsepower. Absolutely crazy. Those cars are now worth in excess of £10,000 if you can find them. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel.
Trip distance. Fuel used. Instantaneous fuel consumption. Average fuel consumption. Time.
One thing that Patrick and I have been discussing as I've been driving along in his Vanden Plas is the fact that the automatic Vanden Plas I drove along to Callum back in 2020 had much heavier steering than this, like way heavier. In fact, was one of the heaviest cars I've actually ever driven. Considering I've driven things like Rover P4s and Jaguar E-types, that's pretty extraordinary. I think it is literally just down to the fact that the automatic gearbox weighs so much and it's out in front, and it just makes the car much heavier. This one, the gearboxes can be a bit sort of vague and funny. This one's sort of okay. The PG1 gearbox that's used in the 2-litre Montegos and Maestros is a better gearbox than this Volkswagen one, but it's okay. The ride and handling of these cars is actually quite good, considering this car dates from an era sort of that we've almost sort of forgotten. It's kind of fun to laugh at stuff like this, but they actually drive much better than something like a Mark III Escort. I've always found that anyway. Despite the fact the steering is quite heavy at parking speeds, there's plenty of feel, it's very direct, and the cornering is actually pretty good. You can see why this was a good basis for things like the MG EFI and turbo models, and why when the Montego was made, I think actually that is even better personally. It's a really nice car to drive. Obviously we've got all these cosmetic issues. You've got missing headlining and leaky sunroof and a heater that doesn't work and all kinds of things like that, but considering Patrick paid for this car £500 in 2019 and it actually had an MOT on it. Now it needs a bit of work, but it has an MOT on it, and to run around in The auto check actually works properly in this car, which is a miracle. I quite like it. I mean, it's no surprise to anyone at all. If I had one of these, I'd have to maybe kind of have one that's in a slightly better condition than this, but you can just about buy Maestros for £100,000 in MOT, and I think that's wonderful.
Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below.
After the new dash came in the early part of 1986, the Maestro Vanden Plas to me got a bit more interesting, talking dash aside. You could get the full leather interior as standard. You could get two-tone paint on the really late ones. You could get power steering, which, you know, the steering's not too bad in this one, but it is a little bit heavy. And for a luxury car, you really should have power steering in it. But should you consider a Maestro with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, I don't see why not. Parts are getting quite difficult for these cars, and of course you do have to check very carefully for rust. These S-series engines, they can blow head gaskets, there can be other problems. This one's always been replaced at some stage in its life. You do have to watch a lot of aspects of these cars. They weren't known for being the best quality back in the day, although the engineering and design wasn't maybe too bad. They don't come from a time when British cars were built to the best standard, so it's just worth bearing in mind. Obviously, I very much like these. I've driven tons of them. I've considered getting one myself. Haven't happened yet, but you know, maybe so at some point. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more inexpensive motoring.